What's going on, KBR Sports family? Welcome back to the KBR Sports YouTube channel. And in today's video, I'm going to actually give you exactly a few reasons as to why Ezekiel Elliott was able to pull off something with his contract that other star running backs in the league right now won't be able to pull off if their time comes up for some new money in their deals. So stay tuned for the video and we'll get right to it. Alright guys, welcome back to the KBR Sports YouTube channel. If you guys haven't already, make sure you have subscribed to the KBR Sports YouTube channel. And while you're at that, let's just say that let's do it as like a pairing thing. While you're subscribing, make sure you go ahead and hit the notification bell so that way you don't miss any future KBR Sports posts, uploads, anything like that on this channel. Oh, and also, before I forget to mention, guys, make sure you subscribe to the KBR Sports Podcast if you're not already, or follow the KBR Sports Podcast, depending on what platform you're on Rabble TV, Spreaker, Spotify, SoundCloud, iTunes, and then newly added iHeartRadio, guys. Make sure you guys go and check it out on there, because a lot of the times I'm coming out with content throughout the week, if it's not even just a YouTube video, but I'm coming out with a lot of podcast episodes throughout the week. So make sure you guys go ahead and subscribe on there so you can check it out on there as well. And goodness me, might as well leave a like at it while you're here. Just leave a like on the video as well, and just to show your support for the channel and to give me your feedback in regards to oh man, I really enjoyed this video. I really appreciate it. Even for you just uploading this video, Brendan, we appreciate you. So make sure you go ahead and leave a like on the video as well. And I wanted to jump into it talking about, because guys, obviously at this time of the year, we're dealing a lot with NFL contracts. We're dealing with guys trying to get new money for their deals. And especially when it comes to the running back position, it's tougher for these guys to get paid on their contracts, because the running back position, everybody is working to essentially feel what feels like devalue that position in so many respects. And there's a lot of top flight running back talent at that position. And we got guys like Ezekiel Elliott, Todd Gurley, Le'Veon Bell, Saquon Barkley, Alvin Kamara, Christian McCaffrey, David Johnson. The list goes on. And people are pretty much getting to a point where they're trying to make it seem like this position is interchangeable. But what Ezekiel Elliott was able to pull off, funny enough, despite the general consensus in regards to where the running back position is going, Zeke was able to pull something off in terms of working his leverage and able to force the Cowboys into giving him a new contract, essentially, extension, not a new contract, to able to extend his current contract. So let's take a look at what Zeke essentially pulled off in getting this new contract. Zeke was able to get the Cowboys to give him a $6 million extension, or sorry, not $6 million extension, a 6-year extension with in total value of $90 million, with $50 million in guarantees that pays him $15 million annually. Okay, so he was able to pull that off after a harsh offseason of negotiating with these guys, holding out, not showing up to training camp, and so on. And you might ask, how was Zeke able to pull this off? Because he essentially was at a position the Cowboys were poising him to be one of the highest paid running backs, but they didn't want to make him the highest paid guy in the league. And obviously, we all know Zeke has had his share of issues, whether it's been the Vegas incident with the security guard, the thing with at the festival where, my man was having a good time. And, the thing happened with the girl and her, and those little incidents, and then just other stuff that Zeke has been suspended for. And those things have culminated into what the Cowboys have some trepidation about giving him his contract. But Zeke was able to work the leverage he had with the team. And you might think that this is like a blueprint for other players to follow moving forward, but this isn't necessarily the same exact scenario for other players. And even in the case of Todd Gurley, who was the highest paid running back until Zeke got his contract, Todd Gurley was pretty unique in a sense in regards to how he got his deal. Because for Todd Gurley, the Rams have a reputation of paying guys earlier than they really need to. Think about all the most recent contracts the Rams have given. Aaron Donald gave him his contract 2 years early. Brandon Cooks, they didn't have to pay him when they did. They paid him early. Jared Goff, most recent contract, highest paid or highest total guaranteed value in a contract in NFL history. They paid Jared Goff early. The Rams have a reputation of paying guys at least 2 years out from when their contract would expire. And so Todd Gurley was the highest paid running back of his 4-year, $57.5 million contract at the time of when it was signed. And he has in total guarantees $45 million in guaranteed money in that deal. And so Zeke wanted to eclipse that. And so he pretty much used the leverage that he had over the Cowboys in terms of them wanting to be a Super Bowl team and feeling like this is their best window to make that happen. And you got to really look at the outliers in this situation because, one, the Cowboys are an organization where they haven't won a Super Bowl since the 90s, okay? And granted, that's more recent than a lot of other teams have won it. And a lot of other teams don't have that backing in terms of, oh, well, at least we have 5 Super Bowls in the pocket. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can relax some, chill out a little bit. But no, the Cowboys, Jerry Jones wants to see them win another Super Bowl in his lifetime. And it's been, over 22 decades since they've won a Super Bowl. And so for him, he wants to see them win another Super Bowl and realizes this is probably the best chance you have with the most talented roster where you still have cheap talent in terms of, like, Zeke signed an extension. So he's still getting paid off of his rookie deal for the next 2 years. And then after that, that's when his new extension is going to kick in. So that will essentially make the total form of this deal is an $8 million, I keep saying the million instead of years, but it would make it an 8-year deal. Okay, so Zeke is going to be with the Cowboys for a long time. Like, Zeke is going to be with the Cowboys essentially until almost 2027. Just even if you guarantee the fact that he will see out the end of that contract. Normally, guys don't stick with the same team for whatever happens. They get traded, released, cut, whatever the situation is. Guys don't stick with the same team throughout their contract unless they're normally a quarterback. So that's just terminal language in terms of what it is in regards to how long Zeke is signed there for. But what Zeke had on his side in terms of leverage that other running backs like an Alvin Kamara, Saquon Barkley, and Christian McCaffrey might not have is that the Cowboys are so fixed around Ezekiel Elliott. Like, everything they do is fixated around Ezekiel Elliott. Like, think about this stat. When Zeke plays, okay, so when Zeke is playing with the Cowboys are 29-14, okay? With Ezekiel Elliott, they're 29-14. Without him, they are 4-4. So that's a 50-50 split. You know what I mean? And you see the margin of victory is so much greater when Zeke does play versus when he doesn't. It's because Zeke accounts for so much of the Cowboys' productivity on offense. Even in 2018, this most recent season, Zeke accounted for 36% of their team's scrimmage yards. Like, from the yards from scrimmage, Zeke accounted for 36% of that. Guys, do you know what that looks like on a pie chart? Like, have you ever had your teacher diagram you when you're doing different percentages and stuff, and you look at it on a pie chart of divvying up production from the skill positions? 36% from one guy. Like, that's crazy. So he produces that much in that regard. And then in terms of the team scoring from last season, he provided 16% of their points. You know what I mean? And guys, I know you guys are going to try and do the math. I counted each of his touchdowns that Zeke scored on, or whatever the case may be. I didn't do touchdowns that he might have had a huge run that led to the touchdown, but every single touchdown he scored, I multiplied it by 6, not 7, because obviously the extra point is never guaranteed. So I did it by 6, just in case you guys are wondering how the math was working on that. He counts for 16% of their scoring, so that's a huge deal. And even dating back to the man's rookie season, the dude accounted for 33% of the team's scrimmage yards, and then he counted for 23% of their points. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a big number. That's a big number. And so there is a difference in the Cowboys' production with and without Zeke. And other running backs don't have that leverage necessarily. Like, Dak Prescott is a better quarterback, and it shows when Ezekiel Elliott is on the field. But if you're an Alvin Kamara and you've been a part of a 2-back tandem for years now with Mark Ingram, who's now in Baltimore, you are in a situation where your quarterback isn't Dak Prescott. Like, Drew Brees relies on you, but it's not to the extent that Dak Prescott relies on Zeke. You know what I mean? Because obviously we all knew Drew Brees is a all-pro level quarterback, Pro Bowler, future Hall of Famer. He's a Super Bowl champion, former Offensive Player of the Year, all these accolades. But Dak Prescott, Rookie of the Year might be the biggest trophy thing that Dak Prescott has to put in his trophy case, aside from maybe a Super Bowl championship. I don't know. But in terms of the NFL MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, those kind of accolades, if you guys tell me that you think Dak Prescott is going to win that kind of accolade, make sure you comment below and let me know if you're a Cowboys fan, because most likely if you believe that, you're a Cowboys fan. So those kind of things, like Alvin Kamara, when we're looking at it from even his production from last year, he accounted for 26% of the Saints scrimmage yards or yards from scrimmage last year, and then 21% of their points. But then you look at what Drew Brees does as a whole. Drew Brees threw for 32 touchdowns, 3,992 yards, and 5 interceptions. Guys, that's his quarterback. You know what I mean? Like, Drew Brees is so good that those are the kind of quarterbacks that most people say you can just stick whatever running back name here and watch him work, and that team will be able to produce with that quarterback as long as you give them a defense. That's why Tom Brady, most times you don't see Tom Brady playing with these Hall of Fame level running backs. You see him playing with guys like Sony Michel and those kind of James White. Like, none of these guys are necessarily going to be Hall of Famers, but they produce enough because the quarterback is so good and he has a solid enough defense that they're able to control clock and control the ball and so on. And they don't depend on the running back for that because the quarterback knows how to manage it. Whereas Dak Prescott might not be that guy in the same range. So when you look at a different guy, the other guy that on this list that he has a shot, but you still are hesitant on is Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey, I mean, dude, since he became the primary down back for the Carolina Panthers, everything runs through him. Like, Greg Olsen is no longer the main featured option on that team anymore. Everything, I say everything, I mean everything, runs through Christian McCaffrey. And so Christian McCaffrey, when you even look at what he did last year, he accounted for 33% of the team's total yards from scrimmage, and then he scored 21% of the Carolina Panthers points. So we think about Cam Newton, who's a former MVP, and Cam Newton is inconsistent, and I'll be the first one to tell you that. And I love me some Cam Newton, but the dude's all over the place. Like, it's a risk to take him in fantasy at this point because you don't know if he's going to give you 2 rushing touchdowns in a week and throwing a passing touchdown with no interceptions, or if he's going to throw like 2 interceptions, 1 rushing touchdown, and no other passing touchdowns. Like, you just don't know what you're going to get from him. And so, in that respect, Cam Newton isn't great enough of a quarterback that you don't need other pieces around him, other quality pieces around him where you can just play it out and see how things work. But because Christian McCaffrey is such a good running back, you probably do need those supplementary parts around Cam Newton to help Cam be productive. Now, those are some of the top names at that position. Now, another guy like Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley, outside of Ezekiel Elliott, probably has the most leverage right now. But the problem is it's timing. Because right now, Saquon Barkley, obviously most people think he's already the best running back in football and think he's the most talented running back in football. And he has the leverage to back it up because Eli Manning, the decline of Eli Manning, we've all seen it coming. We've all seen it happening. Like, Eli Manning's career was pretty much boosted up some and held up in the air by Odell Beckham Jr. when Odell Beckham Jr. got drafted by the Giants. But it's been just a slope. The former head coach for the team got killed for benching Eli for Geno Smith when he did it because there was no point to it. It was pretty much useless. But it was, for a great quarterback, you don't even contemplate benching them for Geno Smith. That's how bad Eli Manning has gotten. You might look at his stats and be like, oh, well, it's not too bad. You know what I mean? But no, if you watch the games, Eli Manning is not there. It's not there anymore. And that team is right now is grinding on the back of Saquon Barkley. And Saquon Barkley pretty much has another year in his contract until he really is eligible for an extension. And so right now, yeah, he might be able to flex his muscle and be able to work his stuff to try and flex that leverage. But the only problem with Saquon's case is that the Giants aren't a winning team regardless. Like, they suck. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're terrible. They're trash. And so if you're trying to flex your muscle, part of the reason why Ezekiel Elliott was successful in what he was doing is because the Cowboys know they could go win a Super Bowl because they have that much talent on their team. For Saquon Barkley, that team is so bad. It's like, well, dude, if we're missing you, we're still losing anyway. And even when Saquon was playing last year was his rookie year, they still were losers. You know what I'm saying? So they're not going to be sitting here pressed to give him his money if they don't need to. Now, when you're looking at other guys, like the only other guys that really fit the scenario of, okay, we need to win now. We need the most talent that we need to win now and possibly make a Super Bowl run would probably be Alvin Kamara. But like I said, he has such a great quarterback. It detracts from his claim to that status of getting a contract like Zeke did. And so Zeke, in a lot of ways, was an outlier. He had perfect circumstances that lined up for him to get paid his money. Guys like Alvin Kamara, Christian McCaffrey, and Saquon Barkley, all the circumstances matter. Saquon Barkley, you look at him, and granted, the Giants aren't going to not pay him because of the fact that you took him with the number 2 pick. You know what I mean? Like you took him so high in the draft. You can't just let that production walk out of your organization or whatever the case may be. You can try and franchise tag him, or you just can't have him not playing because you used such a high pick to get him. And the other leverage Saquon has is that you would want a running back like Saquon Barkley playing with a young quarterback like Daniel Jones, because that alleviates the pressure off your young quarterback. In that regard, I think that's Saquon's best bet to if he wanted to get new money, because until the CBA is renegotiated, these running backs are screwed. You know what I mean? Like if you're a first round pick or whatever the case may be, the team has the ability to, for one, you're signed to a 5-year deal, right? And that 5-year it was a 4-year deal for team option in the 5th year, and hence the word team option. So obviously a team's going to opt in to keep you on that 5th year at a rookie pay scale. And then after that, they can just franchise tag you, like what was happening with Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell kept getting franchised, and he eventually was like, dude, stop franchise tagging me. I can't hit free agency, and I have no long-term security in terms of if I get hurt, there's no security there. And for guys in this league, your career could be over just like that. So you can't even risk just hanging around on these 1-year deals. Granted, a franchise tag is the average of the top 5 players at your position. So they would average up right now for running backs. The average would be of Todd Gurley, Ezekiel Elliott, Le'Veon Bell, David Johnson, and I believe Shady McCoy at the running back. So all their contracts would get averaged out, and you would get paid that for whoever the next guy would be in line to get that franchise tag. But you don't want that because you're only on a 1-year deal. And obviously these guys can get banged up at any point in time. You just don't know what could happen in the NFL. So you don't want to take those risks. But I just don't see another guy being able to flex the leverage like that unless the perfect set of circumstances comes about that you can work your magic like that and be able to get that contract extension. So we'll see. I don't think, to me, it's in all likelihood, I think like you even see a guy like Melvin Gordon right now. Melvin Gordon tried to hold out, and granted, Melvin Gordon isn't of the top tier talent like a Le'Veon, like Ezekiel Elliott, Todd Gurley, whoever, what have you. But Melvin Gordon did try to hold out, and he's on that like tier right under those guys. You know what I mean? Like he's right under them, and he's trying to hold out right now for that contract. The Chargers offered him like a $10 million per year contract extension. He turned it down, and right now he's just losing checks. Like he's holding out for something that, unless he maybe gets traded and another team is willing to pay him that, he's just losing checks right now. And once those fines accumulate, you look at how much money you lost and how much you probably aren't going to gain back in that contract. You just don't get that money back unless a team pays you an absurd amount of money. You're not going to get that money back, especially if they collect on those fines. So in regards to that, it's a gambling game with these kind of things. You have to know what your position is in the league and how much leverage you have to work on that team that you're wanting to get the money from. And fortunately for running backs, most times teams will just plug in a guy and say, hey, we'll just run it with this guy then. We'll just run it back with him and see how that goes. Ezekiel Elliott knew what his leverage was and literally worked it to perfection. Like this was a saga, guys. Like think about it. We had so many things going on, from Jerry Jones making the Zeke who comment.
It was Zeke
Who?
Pollard.
Zeke who?
He's got you on camera.
To the agent being upset about Jerry Jones saying those things, and then even now the press at one of the pressers, they played a joke like on the media where Zeke put on a jersey and it said Zeke who on the front and everything like that. Like those little things that this whole saga was culminated with, and Zeke being in Cabo and all that stuff, his teammates having to talk about it. Those are the nasty parts of a holdout, and you got to always think not all players are ready to sign up to be a part of a holdout like Zeke was a part of. And so those are just things that come into the equation. But guys, I am going to wrap up this KBR Sports YouTube video. I appreciate you guys for tuning into the video. Make sure you comment your thoughts on what running backs you think could push their teams for extensions ahead of the time of expiration and avoid a franchise tag. And let me know if you think maybe you have a guy in line that I didn't mention or I didn't think about. And make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe to the KBR Sports YouTube channel. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything. And guys, I did want to let you all know, I said it on my podcast, I want to make sure you guys are all tuning into the KBR Sports podcast. You can find it on Spreaker, Rabbit TV, iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, and newly iHeartRadio, man. We just got iHeartRadio just approved the KBR Sports podcast on there. So I'm so happy about that, guys. And so make sure you guys go ahead and check out the KBR Sports podcast on all those platforms. And of course, that way you guys get content throughout the week. A lot of the times, if there's only one video in the week or whatever the case may be, you guys are still getting a crap ton of content to tune into. So make sure you guys go ahead and do that. And Guys, until next time, make sure. I got nothing else. All right, guys, I'm out.